This is BYU Sports Nation, presented by the BYU Store. Simulcast on BYU TV and BYU Radio. Now live from Studio B, your hosts, Spencer Linton and Dave McCann.
BYU Sports Nation is live, your day-to-day play-by-play in Studio B, presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. It is Friday, January 14th, wherever and however you're connected. Great to have you with us. I am Spencer Linton, teamed up alongside a man who is always stocking up for Dr. Pepper on the weekend, Dave McCann.
If I had an NIL when I was a student here at BYU, and if it was Dr. Pepper, my life would have been completely different.
That's where it would start and end?
That's where it would start. It's good to be here. It's great to have Friday. Friday always has an awesome feel to it.
Yes, it does.
It's just like, all right, we made it.
This is how we do it.
This is how we do it.
This is how we do it. Here's
bet.
your caffeinated Friday show lineup. New York Jets quarterback Zach Wilson will join us live to recap his rookie season in the Big Apple. What was the number one lesson he learned in year number one and how he's rewarding his offensive linemen? BYU basketball now facing a massive road test at San Francisco. Can head coach Mark Pope avoid back-to-back losses for the first time in the regular season while he's been at BYU? Plus, international stars making a huge impact, loaded show. Bring on today's BYU Sports Nation headlines. All right, Dave, lead us off with the headlines.
Well, Cougars dropped game one of the two-game road trip a couple hours ago, or so it feels.
It feels like
that. It was
that.
a late night in Spokane.
Yes.
Zags won at 110-84. They're number 2 in the country. I think they're number 1 now in the Ken Palm. That's how good they are.
They'll be number 1 in the AP poll, assuming they don't have a massive letdown and lose tomorrow.
Yeah, which they're not going to do. 43% from the field BYU shot, from 3, which is pretty good. But the Zags were 69%. You could beat anybody shooting 69%.
It's insane.
Barcelo had 19. Lohner had 17. It was a good game for Lohner.
Okay.
We'll talk about that coming up. And we got a big one at San Francisco tomorrow night, another late one, 11 o'clock Eastern time on BYU Radio.
Good news for BYU football fans in the receiving corps specifically. Puka Nacua posting a hype video on his Instagram page saying, "Who's ready for next year? #GoCougs." Nacua testing the NFL waters, perhaps?
I didn't know that was a thing.
Apparently it was, and he's going to rejoin Gunnar Romney and Keanu Hill, Cody Hagan, Chase Roberts. That's a talented wide receiver group, Dave. Yeah. In 2021, Nacua led BYU with 805 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, and how about an average of 18.7 yards per catch? He was the big play guy.
South Florida, get ready.
Go.
Those guys are coming September 4th. How about the women's team? 18th ranked, still rolling. Boy, they hammered St. Mary's. You were on the call last night. 78-36. That game was over about 1 minute in.
Out by Dalton, crossover dribble, clipped up a shot. How about the tip by Hampson?
6'7" Sarah Hampson, the number 2 shot blocker in school history with the tip. BYU with 4 players in double figures. Paisley Harding had 18. They're on the road now to L.A. against LMU tomorrow afternoon. Latest ESPN women's bracketology, the Cougars remain a 4 seed this morning.
Go.
Get a little higher, you get some home games out of the gate. We're going to talk about them too. This is a phenomenal team. Maybe the best that Jeff Judkins ever had.
If they just keep winning, if the games are supposed to win, let's say they even drop a game at Gonzaga but win everything else, they're going to be a top 10 team and probably a 3 seed at worst on Selection Sunday. That's amazing.
What amazed me about that highlight we showed, one was Albiero's shot attempt, and then second was the wild tip from Hampson.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was that kind of night for the Cougars.
Certainly. It's wild card weekend in the National Football League, and that means Cougars doing their thing in playoff football, including the San Francisco 49ers, led by all-pro linebacker Fred Warner, taking on the Dallas Cowboys at Jerry's World Sunday, 4:30 Eastern. Don't forget the Kansas City Chiefs and their 2 safeties, Daniel Sorensen and Zane Anderson, against the Steelers. They will host them at Arrowhead Stadium Sunday night, 8:15 p.m. Eastern. And the New England Patriots with Kyle Van Noy will take on the Buffalo Bills tomorrow. I love that we have playoff football on Saturday, Sunday, and then there's going to be the first ever Monday night playoff game.
As it should be, and if they could figure out how to work in Tuesday, I'd be all for it. The Utah Stars have acquired the returning player rights for former BYU star Yoli Childs. Childs suffered an injury while playing in Germany. If he chooses to return to the G League, the Stars would currently be the team that holds his rights. I saw him in the weight room a couple of weeks ago, and what a good guy. Just a
Yoli's
good
the best.
guy.
Now he's the dad and living that life as well.
And Yo was the center when the Cougars beat the Zags 2 years ago after getting thumped up in Spokane the month before.
Yeah, how about that?
How about that? He's not available next month, though, sadly.
Broly Children is not available.
No.
The mystery man. 16th ranked BYU Gymnastics preparing to take on number 22 Nebraska in Lincoln this Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. BYU coming off that third-place finish at the Best of Utah meet with a 195.225, and that was with 9 athletes sitting out in COVID protocols. I like to see what a full-strength BYU Gymnastics team can do. And again, the Cougars, they still jumped up 3 spots in the Road to Nationals rankings from 19 to 16.
The last time we were at Nebraska was the Mangum Hail Mary, right?
Wasn't that fun?
Like in any sport. Wouldn't it be great if it was tied and then Mangum showed up on the beam? And then he
beam
just got
fence
it
was
done?
elite.
Leave the fans stunned. BYU Indoor Track and Field Invitational continuing today at the Smith Fieldhouse. A lot going on over there. Shot putter Gretchen Holstree's throw of 17.1 meters is the second best all time at BYU. Dallin Vorkink is in first place in the heptathlon after day 1.
Well done. Our best wishes to swim and dive today. They're at Air Force today in Colorado Springs and tomorrow here in Provo.
Former BYU volleyball star Kennedy Eschenberg signing her first pro contract. She'll play the rest of the 2021 season with the Schwarz-Weiß-Erthoff squad in Germany. I'm not sure if I said that right, but if you're watching this morning in Germany on BYU TV, my apologies.
We'll confirm whether or not that was correct a little bit later. Our crack research team and all those pronunciations. All rise and shout. It's time for What's Trending.
You're talking about it, and so are we. It's What's Trending on BYU Sports Nation.
A 26-point loss in Spokane against a Gonzaga team that seemingly could not miss last night for BYU men's basketball. 110-84. Dave, you pointed out some of the numbers earlier when we were going through our headlines. The Cougars shot almost 45% from the three-point line, 43% from the field. They had 49 points in the first half, but still trailed by 12. So with that in mind, was that BYU's best performance despite the 26-point loss?
You know, they played well at times. When it was really tight, around 20, that's when, a couple of turnovers from guys who don't usually turn it over. And then the game got out of hand, and it was 12 and 20 points. But the Cougars kept fighting, and they kept shooting. The rebounding battle ended up tied at 33, as big as the Zags were. But, of course, most of their shots went in, and so they didn't have to rebound a whole lot. But it was important to me to watch Foose and Atiki in that environment. They were taken to school. I mean, the Zags star player had 30 points.
Drew Timme he's
awesome.
A lottery pick.
Right. A lottery pick against Atiki, who is still trying to figure out where he's supposed to be. And Foose as well. But we'll look back on their careers, and we'll look back to games like that. Where did they learn it? Where did they learn to play their position? Well, they learned it while getting beat playing it by some of the best in the country. And so I kind of footnote their performance last night in that setting. First time that they've been in that setting. First time that they haven't been able to hear their head coach or their teammates in communicating. And you could tell on the switch defense and the help defense that just wasn't there. And it allowed Timme, I don't know how many layups he had or shots right at the rim, but he was 13 of 14, and they weren't all three-pointers. But they took BYU to school down low. But being at school, you get educated, you learn, you grow, you develop.
Hard lessons.
And I thought Jay Billis had some nice thing to say about those two BYU big men. They're going to get better, and they're going to get Big 12 ready, and they've got another season to do that.
Yeah, Billis joined us yesterday and spoke on the fact that BYU is going to be an NCAA tournament team. And even while they were getting pummeled at points last night by Gonzaga, doubled down on that. So this is a tournament team. This is a good BYU basketball team. Like you said, Dave, this is just a hard lesson. Gonzaga, in large part to me, feels like a high-quality NBA G League team right now. Like, I would put them up against an NBA G League team. They probably wouldn't win that game, but I'd run the Zags out there with the likes of their 7-1 Kevin Durant-esque Chet Holmgren.
And he really didn't do much. He had 12 points.
And Drew Timme and Andrew Nembhard. I mean, there were 4 NBA players on the court at the same time for Gonzaga last night.
Yeah.
Whether that's eventual or later, I mean, still, they're NBA-type talent. So that is such a good team. They're going to be the number 1 team in the country. And BYU with no Richard Harward and no Gavin Baxter, you wonder, what kind of a difference would they have made? Well, Timmy's not going to shoot 13 for 14.
They're not shooting 69% from the field. No way. And I really felt last night is where BYU missed those two, just in the help defense and how they communicate with the other guys on the defensive end. They really missed Baxter. They really missed Harward. And in exchange for the loss of seniors, you've got freshmen, and I thought that was the game. Despite the raining threes and all of that stuff, once the Zags knew they could get to the rim whenever they wanted, I just think the whole playbook opened up, and then BYU tightened up knowing they had to score every time down the floor just to stay in it.
Now, we asked the question, was this BYU's best performance? Clearly, no. They lost the game. I mean, they played really well in some big-time wins. Oregon knocked off number 3 UCLA last night, so it's kind of good for BYU, knowing that BYU beat Oregon head-to-head. Not sure how much that's going to be worth the metric or in the metrics
if Oregon
later
keeps
on.
Going, that'll be great.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But in a loss, clearly this was BYU's best performance in a loss this season. They've lost 4 games. Vanderbilt, not great. Creighton, not great. Utah Valley, Lee. This is their best performance in a loss for sure.
Well, John Rothstein tweeted out last night the Zags would have beaten the 96 Chicago Bulls. He's not far off. Our stat of the day, Mark Pope has not lost back-to-back regular season games as a BYU head coach. Will that streak continue tomorrow at San Francisco?
Wow. All right, so stat of the day to lead off topic 2. You know what? Until I see it happen, I got to go with what I've seen in the last 2.5 years from Mark Pope, and that is his teams bounce back nicely. So this is bad news for San Francisco, I think, because BYU had a hard lesson against Gonzaga. They're going to regroup today. They're going to play way better defense against San Francisco. Granted, they'll be playing a team that's not nearly as talented as Gonzaga, so that'll help out with the defensive measures. But yeah, I think BYU does bounce back, and this is a place, except for the last few years, where BYU has really enjoyed success. For whatever reason, BYU teams shoot well at War Memorial Gymnasium up on the hilltop. I think that continues tomorrow. BYU bounces back and gets a huge win, a quad 1 win against San Francisco tomorrow. Because this is what Mark Pope's teams do. Until we see them not win after a loss, I'm going to go with the trend.
And who knows what's going on with California. I've seen a bunch of gyms that are empty. And if BYU goes into an empty gym or one that's got few fans due to the COVID situation, coming from what they had last night up in the kennel, it'll be a night and day experience of just energy in the gym, which I think works to BYU's advantage now that they've had their pride wounded a little bit. But San Francisco is good. They're 15-2. And this will be, they'll see this as also their opportunity to legitimize them. And so I think it's going to be a very intense setting with both teams going, we got to get this one.
Yeah, certainly. Now, remember the last names, Shabazz and Bouye. And if you are a BYU basketball fan, you probably already know them.
They've been there for 30 years.
Yeah, it feels like that. And they say the same thing about guys like Alex Barcelo at BYU, right? But Shabazz and Bouye are one of the most dynamic backcourts, not just in the West Coast Conference, but in the entire country. They're really, really good. And Shabazz specifically has lit up BYU a couple of times in the recent past and been the big reason that the Dons have kind of had BYU's number recently. So guard that really talented guard line, and then hopefully some good things happen for BYU tomorrow. Our question of the day, back to the last night's game, rather, at Gonzaga, were there more positives or negatives from BYU men's basketball against the Zags? Let's go to Voice of the Nation.
This is the Voice of the Nation on BYU Sports Nation.
Chris Maroki on Instagram says, most positive was Caleb Lohner going for 17 points and knocking down multiple three-pointers. Others stepped up their game too. Looks like the better competition brought out the best in BYU's secondary players. I was so happy to see Caleb Lohner play well. Yeah. He looked like he did in the latter part of last season, where he was a little bit slowed down and in control and poised and shooting with more confidence. And hopefully that trend continues, Dave, because BYU is going to need Caleb Lohner to get back to what he was doing in the latter part of last season.
We'll discuss that further. Was last night the turning point for Caleb? That makes me most interested in watching tomorrow night's game, just to find out that answer.
And as promised, On a Feel Good Friday, the New York Jets rookie quarterback Zach Wilson joins us live to recap his rookie campaign and how he's awarding his offensive linemen. This is BYU Sports Nation.
I know what it's like to be overlooked, to be doubted, to fly under the radar. I only had one offer coming out of high school, but I was ready for every moment, every opportunity, and every shot that I got. Now I'm playing professional basketball, aiming to be one of the best shooters on the planet. And I'm just getting started. Be ready for your moment with Rapid Reboot, the future of rapid recovery.
My name is Spencer Finnegan. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. During my sophomore year, I got married to my sweetheart, Mary, and there's tons of unexpected expenses when it comes to marriage. We were looking for scholarships. I found the replenishment grant, and my local alumni chapter gave me a grant to help me focus in on school. I'm so excited to, now that I've graduated, give back to those students that are coming to BYU in the future.
Hi, Spencer Linton here, letting you know when your company joins the BYU team as a corporate partner, your brand can be featured in sports programming on BYU TV and BYU Radio. In addition to all of the great games, you can be part of the BYU coaches shows, place your message in Countdown to Kickoff, basketball pre- and post-game shows, and each weekday on BYU Sports Nation. We invite your team to join ours and become a corporate sponsor of BYU Athletics. For details, email sponsorship@byu.edu today.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Hey, listen up as BYU Hoops looks to bounce back tomorrow night at San Francisco. Coverage begins at 10 p.m. Eastern with the Cougar pregame live with Jason Shepard. Greg Wrubell, Mark Durant will have the call of the game at 11 Eastern, 9 Mountain Time on BYU Radio and the app.
We are live in Studio B on a Friday. This is your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play. I'm Spencer Linton, teamed up alongside Dave McCann. Joining us now over Zoom is our good friend and one of the best to ever do it at BYU at the quarterback position. Now he is the second-year player for the New York Jets because he's successfully traversed through his rookie season. Zach Wilson is with us on the show. Zach, great to have you here. Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation after a wild rookie year.
Yeah, wild year for sure. It's good to be back and see you guys.
Let's talk about it, man. How would you evaluate your first season as an NFL quarterback?
Yeah, all the ups and downs, the emotions of it all, and the learning experiences, the stress, the fun, it was a little bit of everything. But I really did enjoy it. I really do enjoy it out there in New Jersey, New York, the whole environment, the fan base, my coaches, my teammates. I really do enjoy it out there a lot.
Zach, who hit you the hardest? And after you got hit, what were you thinking?
I would honestly say the hardest hit I took all year was probably week 1 against Carolina. I took a sack. They wrapped 2 guys right up the A gaps. I should have thrown the ball, held onto it, and I just, I got smashed. I can't even remember who it was, but one of those big D linemen they got up front.
Now, those are the hard lessons that come along with transitioning into the NFL, but let's discuss what the best thing you learned in your first season was. What would you say is at the top of the list of lessons learned?
Yeah, one I would say was just simplifying. How can I simplify my thoughts? I think when I first got there, it was like, now that I'm an NFL quarterback, I need to know so much more about the game. And I do, and I do think that's part of it. But once you get out on the field, it's how can I just have very few thoughts to be, very efficient in understanding what I'm seeing and what I'm doing. And you're able to just play more comfortable and able to just get into more of a rhythm and just play like yourself. So I think simplifying was a big one for me.
Let's talk about these meet and greets after the game. And we've shown pictures on this show of you with Tom Brady and with Taysom and all the quarterbacks you've come face to face with. Many of those you grew up watching, and now you're their equal, so to speak, from the other side. What are those like? What do you talk about? And like Tom Brady, when you go up to Tom Brady, and before you were in elementary school, he was playing in the league, and now you're playing him, and you had him beat till late in the fourth quarter. What is that conversation like?
Yeah, it's interesting. Not even just the conversation, but I think, like the pregame warmups of, going out there and just seeing like, me playing for the Jets against the Bucs doesn't feel like the same Bucs I was watching on TV, or like the Patriots. The whole thing it's weird. And I'm like, partway through the game, and I look across and I'm like, this is crazy. That's Gronk, and that's Tom Brady and Mike Evans and AB. All the different guys over there, and it's an interesting thing because it really is. I don't know if the reality of it is really like set in yet. It's kind of crazy to like think about, but I really am enjoying it.
When you and Taysom met up for just a couple of minutes after that ball game late in the season, obviously that game probably meant more to Cougar Nation than any game in the history of the NFL. What did you guys talk about? I know you just had a few seconds together.
Yeah, it was huge for BYU. Kind of like what you said. I was expecting the whole stadium to be full of blue. Having two BYU quarterbacks back in there. But we kind of just exchanged, back and forth, just wishing each other best of luck, and kind of how we're doing with the whole process, and just being in the NFL and the NFL game and adjusting, and kind of how he's doing and all that. And that was pretty much it. So it's kind of good to just catch up for a little bit.
New York Jets quarterback Zach Wilson is with us on BYU Sports Nation. Zach, midway through the season, essentially, your quarterback's coach and friend John Beck joined the staff in New York. What kind of a difference did that make for you in kind of your day-to-day preparation and helping you get better over the course of the season?
Yeah, it was huge. Having John out there was awesome. It was everything I could have hoped for. I appreciate the Jets for allowing that to happen. And, the cool thing was I didn't want John to just be another voice in the quarterback room, saying the same kind of thing. I wanted him to, approach it kind of how I was, sit and listen and don't say anything the whole quarterback meeting, and just kind of take it all in. And then, we got to spend time outside of the facility, whether it was in the film room or out on the field, kind of talking about things, how I should approach things, the mental side of the game. And then physically, of course, of, how I can fix a certain throw that I missed, or my footwork, or, just being comfortable with it. He definitely helped in that aspect. It was great to have him out there.
Now, John's a pretty low key guy. So did you adequately institute him in the New York culture and raise his swag by doing so?
No, John was still John. He was a good dude.
I figured as much.
Yeah, you played at Corner Canyon, and you had a good time the whole time. And you played here at BYU, and you laughed, you won. It looked like you're having the time of your life with your friends. And then you go play for the Jets, which is now your job. So what is the difference between playing for fun and love of the game and your job, and how do you merge both worlds?
Yeah, I mean, first I would say that you can definitely see the business side of it, how it works. And it's really crazy. Every single week there's new guys in the locker room. You don't feel like it's the same. Every single week we have different guys playing, different guys thrown in there, money decisions and things that go around. And it truly does feel like a job from that point. But once it comes down to the game and kind of the things we're all going through, and, kind of having each other's back, it really is the same as it's been my whole life. I really do enjoy it. And the best part is I don't have to go to school. So, I sit at home sometimes and I'm like, you know what, this is awesome. I get to play football for a living, and, I can go hang out with the boys, watch tape. Like, it's exactly what I want to do. And I don't have to go home and do homework. So.
Yeah, no kidding. That might be the greatest celebration of all.
Yeah.
I mean, Dave and I, in our own right, in our jobs, we're glad that we don't have to take finals and do homework as well. I loved watching your relationship with your head coach, Robert Saleh, develop over the year. But from your perspective, how would you explain what that relationship is like right now?
Yeah, I just think he's an awesome dude. I mean, he understands, I think what it takes to be a good winning football team, the culture that he's set. He really gets to know his players down to a personal level, I think, which is the way to do it. And, I think since day one, you can kind of see, the foundation that he's set and what he's trying to do as a team. And that's why I have so much respect for him, is he's really doing it the right way. And guys really respect him and the whole coaching staff. So I really do think we have a good group in there. And I'm excited to just keep working with them, especially with Coach Saleh, because, I was pretty much his draft pick, which is cool. So me and him are hand in hand as far as just, being a part of this team and making it work together.
Now, Zach, I read the New York Post this week, and I'm not quite sure how to ask this question, so I'm going to dance around it a little bit. But it had everything to do with your personal life and nothing to do with football. And so my question for you is, how different is the world you're now living in compared to last year when the New York Post is writing stories about whether or not you've erased pictures from your Instagram account of someone you might be dating? It's an example of the world you're in. Describe this world that you're in.
Yeah, it's definitely different. I guess I kind of expected that, but when you're at this level, everyone tries to analyze kind of everything you do in life, and it's really part of it. And it's a good thing for me to have to understand how to handle everything and handling my business the right way, and just always making sure I'm doing things the right way. But as far as that goes, I mean, it's just going to be part of the job, and you kind of just gotta just move on and just kind of ignore it. But I guess it means you're doing something when people are talking.
I guess it initiates you into being a big-time sports personality in a big city, I guess. You'd like it to be on touchdowns and victories, but I guess this is just part of being in the big time, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of being in that New York market, and it definitely has its pros for sure, along with the cons. But I do think in the long run that it is a good thing.
Zach, at this point, January 14th today, you've got roughly 6 or 7 months before things really get cooking again and we get back to training camps and football begins in full again. But that doesn't mean that your offseason doesn't include a lot of football. So walk us through your calendar, a little bit of vacation time, and then when do you get back to work and where are you going to be working?
Yeah, so I'll be in Utah for the next month or so, hanging out with the family, relaxing, getting back into training this next week. I've kind of, tried to get the soreness off from that past game, so kind of feeling it. So I'm trying to wait till that, kind of goes away. And then I'm going to go out to Miami for a little bit, probably California, maybe a little bit of Arizona as well. I'm really trying to find, if it's not Utah, where do I want to live someday, buy a house, hopefully somewhere with warm weather. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. And then mid-April, we go back to New Jersey. And, I'll move back into my place. We'll be there for about 2 months. We start off-season workouts. So we'll do, about 4 weeks of just lifting and running. And then we'll do, I think, about 10 practices of OTAs, similar to spring ball. And then we get about 6 weeks off to go home. Some guys will vacation, whatever. And then the last week of July, we start back up for training camp. And really, training camp in the NFL is a little bit different with preseason. It's about 2 weeks until the first preseason game, so that was new for me. I felt like the season just came so fast once we got back. So, I got to enjoy this time, enjoy the off season, but definitely get after it and make sure I'm ready by the time that last week of July comes around.
Zach, knowing what you know now based on the last 8 months, and if you were the BYU quarterback coach today, what would you be teaching Jaren Hall, Jacob Conover, and the guys in that room?
Yeah, I think one of the coolest lessons that I learned from my coaches, something they harped on me for. And then also, what really kind of did it for me was when we had joint practices with the Packers. Aaron Rodgers talked about it. You see all the flashy plays, but he talked about reading with your feet and that your feet are completely tied in your decision-making and the timing within the play. If you do a certain drop, that first hitch needs to be taking you to progression 1 and the second one to your next. And it just keeps the rhythm and the play and the timing all sync together so that you're always on time and your feet are always in the ground and you're always able to make throws because you're balanced and you're set, so that was one thing I think Coach A-Rod did a great job on, but that was something I always felt like if I was a quarterback coach, I would just really harp on it, making sure that you simplify the game and you read with your feet and the rest kind of takes care of itself.
Read with your feet. That's the advice for today.
I love it. We're passing it on to Jaren Hall right now. We're clipping that off. Yep. We're sending to Jaren Hall right now. Zach, before you go, I do want to ask you about how much you're actually able to pay attention to BYU football because you're so in the thick of everything in the NFL and preparation and film room. And, your coach has said at times they had to tell you to go home. I know that. I talk to you. I know how you are. You're a football junkie. It's awesome. But how much are you able to pay attention to what your guys and your friends at BYU were doing in the mix of being an NFL quarterback?
I mean, we gotta stop with those. What was it? 10:30 p.m. games for me back on the East Coast. I mean, I was maybe catching the first quarter before I was going to sleep. You know, I found out we beat Utah the next morning, actually. You know, and I wanted to stay up, but I was like, I got a game in the morning. I can't stay up till 2 a.m. watching this thing. So, for one, we got to get that changed. But I always try to keep up with those guys and, you know, make sure I'm texting them, see how they're doing. And they had an awesome year. So I think it was a lot of fun, but I made sure that, you know, I tried to watch as many games as possible. I came to the game in Vegas, you know, against Arizona, and just trying to support my brother as well, you know, because my whole family's going to go right through BYU. So it's exciting.
Hey, Zach, for what it's worth, I know you have Corner Canyon connections, and there's some pretty good quarterbacks out there. We can't mention specific names, but if you want to put in a good word for BYU, feel free to do so, okay?
Yeah, he probably doesn't care what I have to say. We'll see.
Hey, I just like the fact you're back in Utah. You can go to Wendy's and eat whatever you want, and it won't show up in the New York Post.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. It might.
Zach, it's great to talk with you. Glad you're enjoying some family time back here in Utah. We wish you the best in your off-season training. Always a class, Zach, and we'll talk to you again soon, man.
Yep, appreciate you guys. Good to hear from you.
Got it. Zach Wilson, New York Jets rookie quarterback, now making his way into year number 2. 4-13, Dave. I still can't get over the fact that the Jets beat the number 1 seed in the AFC playoffs, the Titans. Like, the capability is there, right?
Right.
And I mean, my favorite highlight of the season.
Buccaneers dead.
Yes.
They had them beat.
Yes. My favorite highlight of the season came in that game against the Titans when Zach rolled out to his right and just kind of pointed to Corey Davis like, hey, go deep.
Yeah.
And throws a dime 60 yards for a touchdown. They win that game. That was awesome.
More impressive over all of that stuff is that the representative Zach is of BYU, and wish him the best and encourage him to stay out of the New York Post. What a machine back there.
TMZ, man.
Come on.
TMZ.
Coming up, proof that the world is indeed our campus.
And BYU receiver Puka Nacua announces he is officially back for next year. What does that mean for the Cougars as they take on another loaded schedule? This is BYU Sports Nation.
I think it means good things.
Those who leave the most meaningful legacy seem to be the ones who never intended to. The same person who loses himself seems to be the same that finds himself. And why? Well, they give the best of who they really are with no thought of return. Find a cause you can put your heart into, my son, in which to lose yourself. I started the Deseret Donor Advised Fund for this reason, because in the end, my greatest legacy is you.
Lisa Valentine Clark.
And I'm Richie T.
Every weekday morning on The Lisa Show, we share fun, inspirational, and relatable ways to make your life better.
Think of us like breakfast for your ear holes.
Yeah, think of us like that.
That's The Lisa Show, weekday mornings on BYU Radio.
Start your day in a positive way.
You don't want to start your day in a negative way.
No, we got too much of that.
Yeah, let's be positive.
You
positively want to start your day in a positive way.
Absolutely.
Nailed it.
BYU Sports Nation is brought to you by Maersk, enabling global trade for a growing world.
The best of BYU-SN airs Saturdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on BYU Radio, and is on the podcast feed featuring the best conversations and interviews from each week. Trevor Maddich, Jay Billis, just moments ago, our interview with Zach Wilson.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Insightful, you know? And
it's so cool to have a BYU guy in New York trying to
Well, and
run the Jets.
We forget that, I mean, he's still so young. And
he's 22.
So to hear him talking about those experiences of looking across the field and seeing Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski, and like that's a very real thing for a rookie as he transitions and looks at, like, okay, I'm now here. I'm in the show.
The Brady thing's amazing because Brady's been in the NFL every day of Zach Wilson's life.
It's
6,
crazy.
12, 10, whatever.
It's
He's
crazy.
always been watching Tom Brady, and then he looks over there and goes, "That's Tom Brady, and we're ahead."
Yeah.
And it's late in the fourth quarter.
He's 44 and I'm 22. It's just wild. Dave McCann alongside myself, Spencer Linton. This is BYU Sports Nation. To interact with the show and get content throughout the day, you can follow us on the social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Let's whip it. Cougar Whip Around presented by Maersk, your integrated container logistics company, enabling global trade for a growing world. Dave, lead us off.
On his Instagram account yesterday, Puka Nacua posted, "Who's ready for next year? #GoCougs." What does Puka returning next year mean for the BYU offense?
Probably at least one more win, Dave. I think he's that influential as an individual player, even at the receiver position. But I think Puka is going to win BYU at least one more game than they would if they did not have him in the mix.
Would you pick Puka coming back or Tyler Algier?
Ooh. Don't put that heat on me,
I just
Dave.
put that heat on you. If you could get Cal's running back, I'd take Puka.
Oh, man,
Because
yeah.
he's so dynamic as a receiver.
I love
and
them
they
both.
did get Cal's running back.
Yeah, for that reason, knowing what we know, it's okay. But before, if you'd asked me before BYU had the Cal running back, I'd probably lean towards Tyler Algier.
Okay.
All right, Dave. Did the Oregon men's basketball win over third-ranked UCLA last night do more to benefit BYU's resume than the Cougars' loss to Gonzaga hurt their resume?
I think the Cougars playing Gonzaga did more for the resume than anything else around the country. You play the number 2, number 1 team. It helps your strength of schedule. BYU gets them again in Provo and then hopefully again in Vegas. That they don't have to beat them. Play them 3 times and you get a boost. But it's nice that Oregon finally showed up and played basketball. And beating UCLA at number 3 does help the Cougars' strength of schedule so long as Oregon can keep it going. And we'll see if they can. But as you see right there, BYU sitting right where they should be for a team playing with a freshman center and a backup freshman center. This isn't the Gavin Baxter top 20 BYU basketball team. This is the team kind of reflected in those numbers of where BYU currently is, and they got to fight to stay there.
Yeah, okay. So they actually drop a spot after losing to Gonzaga. They dropped 3 spots in the KenPom ratings. It's not a huge deal. In bracketology, BYU's a 9 seed. They were an 8. And these are minimal things. However, in bracket matrix, BYU did jump up overall in all the brackets to an 8 seed after the loss to Gonzaga. So read into that what you will.
Figure it out. Tomorrow's a big game. We do know that.
Yes.
Caleb Lohner, 17 points on 7 of 10 shooting. Was his second best points and shooting performance of the season. He was 2 for 3 from 3, which was his best in a long, long time. Was last night's game the turning point for Caleb's season?
Maybe. I hope it is. And my double down picks just might reflect that coming up.
Really? There's a
But
teaser.
I think Caleb, he took a huge step forward mentally last night. To do that against Drew Timme and the Zags, even though BYU lost by 26, but to see shots go down in a gym like that, and he just looked fluid and smooth, Dave. So I'm hoping it is. Before I say it was officially a turning point, we have to see what Caleb does against San Francisco tomorrow.
Show me what you could do tomorrow.
Yes. If he plays well 2 games in a row, and they're the 2 biggest road games of the season.
We may have something going.
Yes.
And BYU needs something going.
Oh, yeah. No question. The BYU women's basketball team held St. Mary's to 7 or fewer points in 3 of the 4
How was the
quarters
call of
last
that
night.
game last night? How exciting was that when the other team had 7 points?
It was 41-7 with under a minute to play in the half.
Yeah.
A football score. It was wild.
I watched it on the BYU TV app, and I'm just like, you know what? Glad Spencer's calling this game tonight.
It's very interesting, Dave. So we'll leave it at that.
This might be the best team Jeff Judkins has ever had.
It's wild.
21 seasons.
So within the game last night, is it more impressive that the defense held the Gales to 7 points or fewer in 3 of the 4 quarters, or that BYU did their thing and had a balanced attack and had 4 players scoring in double figures?
I'll take the defense.
Yeah.
Because BYU didn't shoot great last night, and they blew them out. They didn't shoot great against Pacific, and they blew them out. You're pounding teams with your defense, and you have 3 of the best offensive players in the league. And some nights, Paisley Harding is on. Some nights Gonzalez is on. Some nights Gustin's on. Some nights Sarah Hampson's blocking shots left and right. You play defense and rebound, which is what this team does. That's why they're 14-1.
I think the craziest stat of all was points off turnovers. BYU had 28 and St. Mary's had 0. When you win the turnover points battle 28-0, you're going to win a lot of games. And to your point, BYU is 4 of 26 as a team from the three-point line.
15%, you blew them out.
Can you imagine if they had made 3 or 4 more, then they'd probably win this game by 50+.
St. Mary's isn't a bad team. They were held to 28% shooting. They were held to 17% shooting three-pointers. BYU is that good defensively. Wow. They should climb up. They've been stuck at number 18 in the polls due to East Coast bias. It's like, look at their schedule and move them up. They deserve to be higher in the top 25. They're playing like it.
Okay.
See what happens.
So let's discuss that. 13-1, number 18, currently a 4 seed in that bracketology. Dave, is BYU women's basketball the best team on campus right now?
You mean competing right now or just like of all teams?
You tell me.
Of all teams, let's see. That soccer team played for the national championship. The volleyball team was awesome. The football team won 10 games, finished number 19. I'm going to say they're the best team on campus that's playing right now.
Competing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Because, who's gonna be better than them in terms of the competing resume at the moment? Men's basketball, we already went through what they're dealing with injuries, and they just got blown out by Gonzaga. BYU women's basketball is the heavy favorite in the West Coast Conference. I wouldn't put it past them. They break the huddle of every practice saying Final Four. They're not afraid to go there mentally. They have huge ambitions and dreams.
Follow those dreams.
And the previous times they went to the Sweet 16, they were a double-digit seed. This is a different scenario.
Yeah, that's a good team. And they're coming. Tomorrow they're at LMU. They're back on BYU TV next week. Coming up, someone had a good night last night with his double-down picks. I think we've already heard that.
Oh, boy. And is the world the answer for BYU basketball now and moving forward? The international recruiting train is gaining steam. This is BYU Sports Nation.
Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork sells Ford vehicles including the F-150, the pickup designed for work and play. Tim Daly Ford maintains a large inventory, providing more choices for selecting an F-150 with the power and engineering to carry and tow heavy loads. The F-150's design offers comfort, safety, and a range of options to choose from. Think Ford, think Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork.
BYU Food to Go's convenient location at 2191 North Canyon Road in Provo makes bringing popular BYU foods to your next event easy. Everything's ready when you need it at the drive and load pickup. You drive in and they load no matter the weather. And stop in the on-site creamery for great BYU chocolate milk and ice cream. BYU Food to Go, bringing campus to your table. Call for details, 801-422-5001.
They prefer to be bringing the heat, getting set for success, demonstrating their drive. But when their blood and sweat turns to tears or anything else, we lay the groundwork for BYU's athletes to hit the ground running again, and you as well. Intermountain Healthcare, official medical provider for BYU athletics.
The city needs me.
I bet if I moved in with you, you become president. I have parents. This is just temporary.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
To get to know the players, the coaches, and some compelling fan stories, search Deep Blue on the BYU TV app today. You will not be disappointed.
You'll spend a lot of time there, too. Be warned.
Yeah.
Because there are some fantastic stories. Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation live on a Friday in Studio B. We talked to Zach Wilson earlier. If you missed that conversation, you can download the podcast and listen to it on demand.
Good stuff.
Dave, I want to talk about the international presence that is within BYU athletics, specifically BYU men's and women's basketball right now, because really, you hear the university moniker, the world is our campus. You look at the rosters on the men's and women's teams, it's very real. 4 international players for Mark Pope, 5 on Jeff Judkin's squad. Let's outline all of them. On the men's side, Atiki Ali Atiki is from Tanzania. Gideon George, of course, doing wonderful things for the people of Nigeria. Fusini Traore is from Mali. And then Winitana Peora is from New Zealand. Okay, those are the 4 there. Then as we shift to the women's side, you look at Maria Albiero, who is Brazilian, Signe Glantz from Sweden, Tegan Graham, who is a massive addition for BYU over the past 2 years out of New Zealand, and fellow New Zealanders Ariel Mackey-Williams and Kaylee Smiler. 9 players from international locations at BYU. So, Dave, my question is, looking at those rosters, is this the key to sustained success for BYU basketball on the men's and women's side?
It's certainly an avenue to pursue, which has not been pursued, in recent years. But Mark Pope and Jeff Judkins and coaches on campus are willing to find them, whether they're in different countries or they're in the portal from different countries, but bring them here. I wrote an article yesterday on Fus in the Deseret News. So last night, Fus started at center, a devout Muslim from West Africa starting at center for BYU. That's never happened
Incredible.
Before. His teammate, Atiki, Ali Atiki, also a devout Muslim, who started 2 games over at Diamond Head Classic in Honolulu. So he was the first. Now, Fus is the first regular starter who's a devout Muslim from Africa. And you go, I wonder if the guys who built the sports department at BYU all those years ago had an inkling of, one, there would be a BYU TV that can take whatever happens here to the world. But 2, that someday a devout Muslim from West Africa would be the starting center.
Incredible.
And you've got to go all the way back 50 years before Fus's recruiting visit for the Gonzaga game 2 years ago. 50 years back, and Kresimir Ćosić comes to BYU. The first, as Billy Packer, the longtime CBS sports analyst, said, he was the first international player to come and be a superstar and open the door for everybody, not just BYU guys, for foreign athletes to come to the United States, get an education playing college basketball. And here you got Ćosić, and then years later you look at today's lineup and roster for BYU, and you go, pioneer and those who made it possible, and here they are. And I see no reason to believe that it's not going to continue.
Sure. And I look at the international presence at the highest level in the NBA. I mean, there's a real case. Some people think Luka Doncic is the best all-around player in the NBA right now. International guy. And that's a conversation and a debate with NBA fans for another day. But the point is, he's incredible, and it doesn't stop there. There are so many good international players at the NBA level.
And how about the impact that these kids have on all the other kids here on campus?
Sure.
Mark Pope told the story in my article that before the game, a player takes 30 seconds with a little devotional and then leads the team in prayer. And it came Fus's turn, and he stood up, gave a 30-second devotional, and led the team in a Muslim prayer in his native language. And then they took the floor. And this is how he develops the best locker room in the country that he likes to talk about. This brings them together in the most unique ways. But the fact that that's never happened before in the history of BYU, and the rest of the team is participating. So it elevates everybody. And Mark Pope said BYU is the greatest destination for a faith-based student or student-athlete in the country.
Regardless of religion.
Regardless of religion, and that they will be treated, they'll be safe, and this will be an environment for them to build their faith more so than any place in the country. And he is right. And these athletes want that. And you know what? For kids that don't want that, there are plenty of other places that can meet those needs.
Sure.
But for this particular need, and he's seeing it from his guys, whether it be George from Nigeria or Atiki or Fus, he says it's magical.
Yeah. I look at the lessons that those guys are teaching us.
Yeah.
From their very unique standpoints and of service and love and acceptance. Like, we're talking about BYU being a good place for them to feel safe. They are helping the BYU community. They are helping you and me and every BYU fan by showing these incredible examples of love and service and respect, and we could use more of it. So, I mean, it is It is an incredible impact, not just on the floor, but clearly their impact off the floor is just as meaningful, if not more meaningful. And yeah, I mean, I look at teams even in the West Coast Conference, Dave. Gonzaga has had incredible success recruiting international players, and those guys have gone on to do amazing things. Domantas Sabonis, St. Mary's had the Australian and New Zealand pipeline going for a long time and still have it going. They bring in these great players and develop them, and some of them move on to the NBA. It's wild. So St. Mary's discovers them, Gonzaga discovers them. They help lift these guys to their NBA careers. Why not BYU get involved in that mix?
Who said his goals that he wanted to achieve in life were not attainable in Mali? And his parents sent him here, sent him to Wasatch Academy in Sanpete County. 2 years later, he's at BYU, and he said, it's hard. English is his third language. He finished the semester with a 3.86 GPA.
He's crazy.
And he said he's got a lot of good people helping him. But his favorite class was a religion class. He said he learned a few things and also saw the similarities between his faith and the predominant faith on campus. And he's a joy to be around. It's like recruit more Fusas, more Atikis, but be patient when they're freshmen playing at Gonzaga. They are going to grow up, and they are going to be really good.
Great stuff. And I'll say this to close out on the women's side. Tegan Graham, like as amazing as Shaylee Gonzalez and Paisley Harding and Lauren Gustin all are, and Sarah Hampson with her presence, I feel like the most essential glue piece on that women's team is the New Zealand star, Tegan Graham. She makes it all work. She's like the magic potion that makes the concoction work and be fabulous, right? BYU would be great without her. They're special with her.
Don't let her shoot.
She's the best three-point shooter in the West Coast Conference, and yet teams still leave her out. But she's been dynamite.
Yeah, I agree.
In so many ways. Great passer, had 7 assists last night. Yeah, so an international player, I feel like, is what makes BYU go from great to special this season.
Yeah. And somewhere, Christian Merchosich is going, you're exactly right. we should sign more foreign athletes.
It's wild. Tegan shot 47% from the three-point line last year. That was a WCC record, and she's not far behind that this year. 45%. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's good. That's a good team. Coming up, our elite voice of the day.
And, I've got some work to do with my double down picks.
I think it's over.
It's a long season, Dave.
I know it.
Never say no. Never say die.
I'm saying it now.
This is BYU Sports Nation.
Introducing the all-new 2021 Nissan Rogue. A fuel-efficient car that's compact enough to park just about anywhere, but has enough cargo space to fit your hobbies, your kids' hobbies, and your dog's hobbies. It's equipped with the latest safety and efficiency technology for a smooth and quiet ride wherever you want to go, whether it's through the neighborhood or across the country. Are you ready to Rogue? It's at Tim Daly Nissan Southtown.
I've never looked like anybody.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Yes, I've never looked like nobody. And how can you look like so many people? Like on your mom's side, dad's side, over here, over there, grandma, grandpa.
To find somebody that looks like you is just absolutely blows my mind. I got somebody that looks identical to me. That was crazy. I was like, there's no way. It's not real life, but it is real life.
They sound alike, they stand alike, they
Genetics
look like.
is crazy.
It really is amazing.
All the little things you have in common with everybody, like your common interests are the same.
Things that you thought you knew, you didn't.
Your ticks, your like little ticks that you have.
If you have the time to spend with your family or to make a new connection with new family, please, by all means, do it.
Right? Or if you've lost connection with your family because you've been holding grudges, talk about it, apologize, let it go, do what you have to do to mend those breaks, because that's all we've got in this life. And I think that became such a stark reality for all of us. And now we get to spend the rest of our lives building all these new relationships.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
BYU Sports Station, always available on demand via the BYU TV and BYU Radio apps.
Or download the podcast. Just Google BYU Sports Nation podcast, and don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show.
It's time, by contract, for the results of our double down picks from the Gonzaga game, and we'll give you our picks for BYU at San Francisco. We each give 2 predictions. Each one of those picks we get right is worth a point. If you get both correct, you get a bonus point for a total possible of 3. All right, Dave.
All right, here's Jerem's predictions. He had a massage this morning, so he's not in today. Tejon Lucas would make 2 threes, and he did.
So got it.
Point for Jerem.
And the stat that I was pubbing is now no longer relevant. That BYU is undefeated when Tejon makes a 3 until you face Gonzaga, right?
Then he went BYU scored 70 or more, and they scored 84 in the loss. So 2 points and the bonus for Jerem, who's pulling away from this thing.
Congratulations.
What about you? What happened?
I said BYU will cover the Ken Pomeroy spread and be within 12 points. I was feeling really good when BYU cut it to 7 early in the second half, and I thought, okay, just maybe they can keep it respectable and close the rest of the way. And then Gonzaga went absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, they did.
And they win by 26. BYU, you told me BYU's going to score 84. I would have thought for sure they'd be within 12.
Yeah, I agree.
BYU will hold Gonzaga to 80 or fewer points.
Was that a first half?
That was, yes.
Pick?
I'm glad you
Nice
picked
job.
up on that. I thought that was clear yesterday. They would hold them to 80 or fewer in the first half. They only got 61. No, the Zags dropped 110. So no points from me last night.
Let's look at the standings.
Jerem's up 28-14.
2 touchdowns. I don't know where you can get 2 touchdowns the rest of the way. And Shepard's not helping me at all. If you look at those, he's helped me get 5 points. But granted, we're not on as much as you guys.
True. Okay, now for our picks for the San Francisco game, Dave. You make the picks today.
All right, Foose is going to get a double-double.
All right.
And he was close last night. This is going to be a good game for him. And Trevin Nell's going to score a career high, which means 21 points or more. He had just 5 last night. He's got to be better than that. He's got to be the X factor tomorrow against San Francisco while they're chasing Lucas, Barcelo, and dealing with Foose. Trevin Nell, career high tomorrow night.
That is aggressive, and I'm here for it. All right, my picks. Number 1, Caleb Lohner's going to score in double figures again.
Ooh, riding the wave, huh?
I think that this is the turning point. Gonzaga was the turning point. He scores in double figures again tomorrow at San Francisco.
Okay.
And BYU's defense will show up. They will hold USF to 75 or fewer points on the Dons' home court. San Francisco averaging 78 on the entirety of the season. They just put up 90-plus against LMU. 75 or fewer. BYU's defense is good.
Love it. Jerem's going with BYU wins by 5 or more, and Spencer gets 1 pick right.
I'm not even mad about that.
No, you shouldn't
It's
be.
an ultimate troll job, and I don't even. It's great.
Think
Well
of it as
played.
encouragement. Our question of the day, were there more positives or negatives from BYU's loss at Gonzaga?
Our elite voice of the day, presented by Sundance Mountain Resort. At Takanur on Twitter says, BYU's offense came alive. Young guys got critical playing time. The whole team got a good wake-up call about where BYU currently stands against the country's elite. Definitely some positives. Yes, this is the best team, arguably, in the country, along with Baylor.
And they are by far the best team that's shooting 69%.
Oh, my
There's no better team in the country than what
Unbelievable.
BYU saw last night.
Offensive display by the Zags. So BYU, look, UCLA got blown out. Okay, today's Rise and Shoutouts presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics. We're giving it to Caleb Lohner in women's basketball. Our thanks to today's guest, Zach Wilson. We have time for Dennis, Dave?
No, sorry, Zach, too much time.
For Dave, I'm Spencer. Shout out to Justin Robinson. Have a great weekend and go Cougs.